Hey guys, we're back with the notes for 4.5. We're going to be writing equations using point slope today. So if you've already done 4.4, you remember that we were using y equals mx plus b. While that is still our end goal, there is another equation that is sometimes a little easier to use. Okay? So reminder, the same two parts that we need for any equation are m and b. We need our slope and our y-intercept. So sometimes the problems are going to be that straightforward. Sometimes you're going to have your m if your slope is -4. And you're going to have your b if you know it crosses the y-axis at -2. Do not forget that a lot of problems are this straightforward, okay? But not all of them. Let's go ahead and look at the next one. I'm going to pause for just a second, go ahead and write what you see, then press play. Perfect. So I'm going to kind of color code to show you what we're doing. On this problem, we have a new formula. This is called point slope equation. So we're going to write our equation of a line with a slope of 2/3. We know our slope is our m. I already have my m, so there's no extra work to find it. This equation is going to pass through 3, -2. So my x is the 3, my y is the -2. So in this problem, when we plug in our equations, the best part is that it's going to spit out the answer. It's not going to just give me b and I have to plug it back in. It's going to give me the full answer. So let's go ahead and plug in what we know. If I start with y minus my y number is a -2. Since I have y minus in my formula, I have to put the extra -2 in for my yellow, in for my y1, okay? I'm going to write out my equals 2/3 because that's my slope, and then x minus my x number. And my x number this time is going to be 3. Okay, so I've plugged in my x, my y, my m. Let's go on to the next step. I'm going to look back at my problem and see if there's any of those double negatives. Anytime I see that, I'm going to make them gray. So I happen to see a gray set right here. So what we're going to do is make that into a big plus sign. 2 negatives make a positive, so we're going to put a big plus instead. That way we don't get confused. Our third step is to distribute. Just like multiply, we're going to distribute 2/3. 2/3 times x is just 2/3 x. 2/3 times a -3, you're going to want to put that in a calculator. 2/3 of -3 is a -2. We're going to bring down the rest of our formula. Remember, you can pause anytime I'm going too quickly and listen to it again. Last step is we want to cancel out this guy. Whoever's with y, we're canceling him away. How do I cancel a +2? Well, I need to subtract 2. He does not have an x, so I'm going to put him with the other number that does not have an x. They're going to cancel away, and I'm going to get my answer. Y equals 2/3 x. This gives me a -4. That's where my full answer comes from. If you need to listen again or pause that to copy, please do so now. We're going to the next page. All right, go ahead and pause and write what you see. We'll get started in just a second. Perfect. So we're going to go ahead and look at this problem first. I noticed that I don't have a slope. I can't really do anything else until I have that. So we're going to start by figuring out who our x1 and y1 are. That's 2 and -3. x2 and y2 are. That's 4 and 7. Once I know who my numbers are, now I can use my slope formula to figure out what my m is. y2 minus y1, that's 7 minus -3, over x2 minus x1, that's 4 minus 2. In my calculator, that's going to give me a slope of 5. So now that I know who my m is, we can start plugging in numbers. It does not matter which point that you use. I am going to choose the numbers that are either smallest or that don't have negatives. In this case, I'm going to choose the 4 and 7 because they don't have any negatives that I'm going to have to fix. So let's plug in what we know. I know I have y minus my y number, that's the 7, equals my slope 5, and then parenthesis x minus my x number, which is 4. There are none of those double negative signs that we're going to have to fix. Make sure you look for them, but there's none on this problem. So we're going to be able to go into my multiply. We're going to distribute 5 times x is 5x. 5 times a -4 is -20. We're bringing down the rest. Our last step is to cancel. We want to cancel this number and get y by itself. So the opposite of minus 7 is plus 7. It doesn't have an x, so we're going to add it with the 20. Negative 20 plus 7 gives us 13. It's going to be negative. So 5x minus 13 is your final answer. Go ahead and pause it, write what you see, and we'll move to the bottom. All right. We're going to do problems 1 and 2 at the bottom of this page side by side. So on the first problem, I have my slope. I know it's 2/3. I also know I have my x1 and my y1. So we can plug in what we know. Let me have just a second to highlight these so we know where the numbers are coming from. Okay, I'm going to do y minus a negative 1. That's because my y is a negative number. Equals my slope 2/3. And then parenthesis x minus 6. I don't have a negative there because my 6 is positive. The negative is a subtraction sign and it comes out of the formula. Okay. All right, so first I'm going to scan it, and I notice right here that I have 2 minus signs. Well, I don't want 2 signs, so I'm going to make it into one big plus sign. We are ready to multiply. 2/3 times x is 2/3 x. 2/3 times a negative 6, you're probably going to use a calculator. That's going to give us a negative 4. I'm going to bring down the rest of my problem, and I'm ready to cancel. Remember, you can pause anytime you need to listen or write. We're ready to cancel off the plus 1, so we're going to subtract 1 from both sides. The 1s are going to cancel, and my final answer is 2/3 x minus 5. The problems where you have m are going to go a little bit quicker because you don't have to find it. On problem 2, I don't have m, so I have to use my formula. y2 minus y1, that's 10 minus 0, equals x2 minus x1, that's negative 3 minus 2. In my calculator, that's going to give me a slope of a negative 2. Once I have my slope, now I can pick a point. I like to pick the points that have small numbers or no negatives. In this case, I'm going to use 2, 0. That's going to be my x1 and my y1. All right, plugging in what we know. Give me just a second to highlight. And we're plugging in y minus 0, that's my y, equals negative 2, that's my slope, and then x minus 2, that's my x. I'm going to go ahead and check for double negatives. I don't have any, so I'm ready to multiply. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x. Negative 2 times another negative 2 is positive 4. The great news is here that we don't need 0. So I can just bring down my y equals. I'm going to move this down just a little bit. I'm going to bring down my y equals. This right here is my answer. There's nothing left to cancel, so I'm done. Okay? Go ahead and pause if you need to. Copy what you see. We'll meet you on the next page. All right, I'm going to ask right now that you guys go ahead and put stars on 5, 6, 8, 9, and 10. All of these are going to be the shortcuts, and I want you to look out for them when we're doing the assignments. Okay? So remember that when you have an undefined, we want to use an x equals. We're going to look and see what our x is in the problem, and then we're going to make our equation, x equals negative 4. When you have a 0 slope, let me write that out. Oops. When your m is 0, we want to use a y equals equation, and we're just going to take our y. So y equals 6. These are equations that should be no work. As soon as you see them, you're like, yeah, I can just write the answer. Okay? Problems 9 and 10 are very similar. If you're given 2 points and you notice that the numbers are the same, they have the same y or the same x, you can write that equation. Same y would be y equals 1. Same x would be x equals negative 4. You're just writing down the number that repeats and then saying if it's an x or a y. Okay? Now, for number 8, I'm going to erase what's on here, and I want you to see why we're doing that. Okay? On number 8, we don't have our slope, so it's true that I would have to do that. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay? When I do this problem, my slope's going to come out to be 1. But right here, I don't have to do any work. That point 0, 4, that's on the y-axis. So that tells me right away that my b is 4. Once I know I have my m and my b, there's no more work. I can go right into my equation. Y equals x, right? Because it's 1x, but I don't write 1. So y equals x plus 4. That's my answer, and that is the end of your note. Your assignment is going to be page 128, 129, numbers 1 to 13. If you have questions, please come see me.